But more dissent is allowed in Abu Dhabi than in D.C. I just find that just absolutely incredible. Like, what is this? Why can't they allow Thomas Massie to just like have his own Massie views? That's just weird to me. Why are you going to the effort to shut down all dissent?
So recently, Tucker Carlson had a podcast where he talks about why the Washington political establishment hates Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene so much, especially lately. And spoiler alert, it's not because they're corrupt. Because not only are they not corrupt, corruption is the thing that will make inroads into the Washington political establishment and make you a hero, maybe even make you president. But let's get his take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
If you see or hear voices that are dissenting from the official storyline, they're going to have to be silenced or eliminated. I mean,
well, look at what happened. Look at the ambushes that occurred when Thomas Massie, who I think is great, Rand Paul, who I think has matured immensely, and who is the third Republican who stepped away from the narrative, and all of a sudden the attacks were relentless. Now, that could just be Trump being Trump.
It wasn't just Trump attacking them, though.
I know.
Marjorie
Taylor Greene, who, by the way, is nowhere near as stupid. I mean, she's not even stupid.
Oh, I know.
She ran a construction company.
Oh, I know. And her, she just doesn't have whatever that normal, the fear that controls people in D.C. where like, I can't.
But how do you turn on Thomas Massie? Marjorie Taylor Greene at least played a role in kayfabe that you could imagine drawing fire. Massie's this guy, you know, who built his own house and fixes his own car, and he's an engineer. He's an archetype of who we ought to be
as a country.
As a country,
I so vehemently agree with that.
And they turned on him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Massie's a brilliant polymath. He's kind of the Jeffersonian of our age. You know, he's brilliant at everything he does, including politics, and he's principled. You can say a lot of things that you don't like about Massie, especially if you're, you know, a left-winger or a Trump fan. You know, there's a lot of redeemable things if you're about him, if you're a dissident on both ends of the spectrum. But these two are absolutely right. Not only is Massie the archetype of who we should be as Americans, it's true that both he and Marjorie Taylor Greene lack that intrinsic quality that makes them fear the DC establishment and feel that they have to toe a line of politics neither of them do, especially when it comes to, you know, spending in Israel and the wars.
Yeah, well, I haven't.
We know why they turned on him.
Texted with him this morning. No, I mean, you know, you could say I disagree with Thomas Massie, but if you think Thomas Massie is the problem,
you are the problem.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Just because, first of all, he's a decent man, which always matters to me, and I think it should matter to all of us. You could, you know, give Thomas Massie a routing number, and he's not going to take $1. He's just not. He's not going to.
The only one without a handler.
That's true.
Yeah, say that about Zionists, minions of the deep state, IRS officials, and members of the political establishment in both parties. You can't say that. They'd take your money straight out of your account. And guess what? Not only would they do that, they'd say it's for your benefit that I'm doing this. And it's America first that I'm doing this. Oh, let's send the money to Lockheed Martin in Israel and Ukraine while we're at it.
And I think we should admire that, even if you think that all members of Congress should be required to have handlers. It's okay to live in a world where one doesn't. That's what I find so...
Well, it's not okay to live in a world where everyone else does.
No, I agree with you, but I just find what's so interesting, and there's a religious quality to all of these conversations that I find so striking. It's like, it's okay if you have, you know, all this power, all this money, if you're running the U.S. government, or whoever you are with a lot of power, you know, you can afford to have some percentage of the population not play along. Like, you don't need... It doesn't need to be an Albanian election in 1982. Like, you can have some dissent.
Unless you're an authoritarian state.
I guess that's right. I mean, but even in an effective authoritarian state, in Saudi Arabia, in the Emirates, these are, you know, basically theocracies. They don't agree with that, but they, you know, these are Islamic states under Sharia law. You can kind of dissent. It's okay. You just can't do anything really threatening, of course.
Right.
But more dissent is allowed in Abu Dhabi than in D.C. I just find that just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right, especially when the Republicans have both the House and the Senate. And it's not these liberal Democrats that are so relentlessly dragged by the president, it's actually principled members of Congress in Trump's own party, like Thomas Massie, who dares to buck the political trends when it comes to Israel, Ukraine, spending, the Doge facade that they tried to lead on, claiming that there'd be $2 trillion in government cuts. Well, Massie said, stick to your principles, stick to at least what you espoused, because clearly they don't have principles, but stick to your best campaign rhetoric. But they never do that, and it's the iron law of Scott Horton as to why they don't do that. And Scott's my friend, but he always says, politicians, when they win elections, you can be guaranteed on this iron rule, is that they'll always keep all of the bad promises and discard all the good ones. And that's what you see.
What is this? Why can't they allow Thomas Massie to just have his own Massie views?
He is a vote.
He's a vote, okay, but you got hundreds of others. I just think it's weird. There's this desire to make sure that nobody sings off the song sheet, and that person must be killed. And I don't enforce that among my own children.
So,
yeah, what can be said about that? That's exactly true. It's not like one vote has decided, Trump's agenda so far. It might end up doing that because of how much his approval ratings are suffering, how his agenda is being jeopardized by the Epstein cover-up, the consistent arming of Ukraine, and what is it, month 7 now? Shelving U.S. interests to negotiate with Iran for the sake of a regime change war for Iran, which was on the table, by the way, and Netanyahu still wants that regime change war. It's to, bomb Yemen for a month instead of actually cutting spending, extending the Biden CR, passing the big abominable bill to add $5 trillion of new debt to an already $37 trillion national debt. It's breaking all these promises, and people like Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene have the gall to point this out, and it's because they're pointing it out that they're being attacked. It's no different than what we saw, from the left-wing liberal establishment. It's the same uniparty with the same methods to drag the principled people through the dirt. You always see it.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I absolutely
it's
know
bizarro.
What you're talking about. We used to allow opposing views.
Yeah, look, if someone is really a threat to the system, well, I think that should be allowed personally, because the people in the government.
Depends on in what way, but yes.
In what way? I have a very wide strike zone for that. But I get it if the system is I'm sorry, you're an actual threat, we have to kill you. Okay, systems exist to preserve themselves. I understand that. What I really can't even comprehend is someone out there in a place I've never been and never will go among 350 million people is making a noise that I disagree with. I must crush him. What is that? That's just weird to me. Why are you going to the effort to shut down all dissent?
That's exactly right, and that's what we've seen aimed toward both MTG and Massie lately, and it comes down to 3 things. It's mostly their stance on spending, which is much more actually conservative than Trump and Trump's base. They actually want to stick to limited government, not just make that an election campaign vehicle to getting into power, but actually hold to that once you get elected. It's their desire to end the wars. And like I said, nothing would make you president more than wanting to start a war. They'll let you lie your way into the presidency as long as you're, saying that I don't want wars, but once you're entrenched there, if you bomb, you're good to go as a president. That's moderate foreign policy in Washington. And they both also say that Israel first isn't America first. It's America last. And Marjorie Taylor Greene calls it rightly a genocide. Massie has lambasted this administration for letting that recent cybersecurity official from Israel's government get away with a sexual crime in Las Vegas and then escape back to Israel scot-free on a plane after having talked to the FBI. It's things like this that these two point out that make them pariahs within their own party. And this tendency isn't new. On the left, we saw this with people like Dennis Kucinich and Cynthia McKinney, who actually had good stances on a lot of issues, including foreign policy. They were dragged through the dirt too. Even Bernie Sanders, and I think he's much more melded into the establishment than a lot of people will say, obviously. He's treated the same way too. They wouldn't let him get close to the presidency. They did the same thing on the right with people like Pat Buchanan and Ron Paul. This always happens. On the left, again, Jim Traficant, same thing. This always happens and the tendency is clear, but what we need to do is encourage these people that typically buck the system, and they do it courageously against all the pressures of Washington, all the lobbying groups, big pharma, big bank, military-industrial complex, what have you, and they deserve some credit for that. And, you know, I'm a total voluntarist. I don't like government at all, but I think it's worth commending the people that actually aim to do right, even if I don't think that that is the best way to improve society. I mean, I think you can make a lot of inroads culturally, building technology, etc., than you can in politics, but the people that do aspire to be good, to actually bring virtue to an unvirtuous city, that deserves commendation. Both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie deserve it. I'd love that as a presidential ticket. Of course, they'll never let those two anywhere close to the presidency or get through the primaries, but nonetheless, I said what I said. But I do want to hear from what you guys say. Let me know down below, why is it that the establishment and Trump hate Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene so much? Do you think things are changing and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie will begin to counter and actually be able to dispose of attacks against them? Let me know down below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Tucker. Thanks for this interview. Really appreciated it and mostly agreed with what he said there. Please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can support the channel, and in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live on YouTube. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.